Hi, and welcome back again to what we are considering the Itasca County Historical Society half-hour shows to share a story with everybody here in the community. And my name is Lilah Crowe. I'm the Executive Director. And today I am so excited about probably 4 years ago, the first time that I got to hear a little bit in a diary. And you know, everybody talk secretly when it comes to diary, but this one here was so much fun. It was at a BNI meeting, and people ask, what's BNI? It's Business Networking International. It's so much fun, and the Historical Society belongs. I'm able to tell stories there, and one day, Wendy Green, Wendy Green, but I always call her Brier. Trust me, everybody else does too. Wendy Green from Brier Clothing brought in her grandfather's, but I think it's your grandmother that wrote it, diary, and shared with us a whole bunch. So we're going to start that out. We're going to tell the story today of Brier Clothing, but we're going to start with the diary so that you can hear just a couple of things that happened back then. So Wendy, let's start. When did it start?
So my grandpa and grandma opened up the store in October 25th of 1937. This is the very first set of books that she kept track of the amount of sales that they had, what they made every day from the 1st to the 30th or 31st, whatever it may be. So, for instance, on October 31st, 1937, that was their very first day of business, and they took in $208.11.
But that in 1937,
that was a lot of money. But the next day they took in $11.20.
So that's a grand opening.
So it was a grand opening. It absolutely was
before
grand.
you move, though, I'm just looking. It's very meticulous. Very neat. She kept track of everything, all handwritten, and it's in ink, right?
It's in ink, and she had fabulous handwriting.
Wow, that is awesome.
Handwriting that we don't see much anymore.
That's true.
Absolutely. Cursive
it's all
handwriting.
done by machine.
Well, and it's cursive.
Yes.
Most people print now.
Yeah.
So the next item that I saved out, so the grand opening sale was $208. Well, then in June of 1938 was their very first Father's Day. And for their very first Father's Day, they took in $195.77, which was almost like their grand opening.
Grand opening.
And of course, they worked Monday through Saturday. They were always closed on Sunday, always. And they had interesting events in Grand Rapids way back then. For instance, on August 2nd of 1938, they had Pageant Day. I don't really know what Pageant Day was, but she specifically has Pageant Day. People came to town for this. I don't know if there was a parade. They made $110 on that day.
Well, we're gonna have to look that up, though.
Yep, Pageant Day. She is, yeah. I mean, boy, she kept track. Then she called it the very first store birthday, which would have been in October of 1938. And the very first birthday, they made $209. Now, if you remember, on opening day, they made $208. So, very close. But she called it a birthday. They never called it an anniversary until later years, which I found interesting, because nowadays stores always talk about anniversary.
But
they don't talk
birthdays
about
back
birthdays.
Then. Wow.
And then my next item is some of the interesting things that she wrote in here, because it wasn't all about the store. It was absolutely about the community and about the people in the community. So on one of these days she wrote, it's cold, the road is blocked, it's 22 below, and then the next day it was 18 below, and then the next day it was 40 below, and the roads were blocked again. So obviously business suffered in these days because they didn't have a lot of equipment. So their days taken, the business was $73, $31, $40, $81. When people can't get into town, they can't shop. One of the coldest temperatures I saw in here was on February 22nd of 1939, and it was 51 below during the night.
Wow.
So they had definite. We talk about our cold winters, but they had cold winters.
Cold winters, wow. It's all documented. That's what's so neat.
So you've heard of the Potato Festival?
Oh, yes.
So the Potato Festival, I'm sure my dad and my grandpa had a float in it, because I guess I'm trying to think. In 1939, my dad was born in 24. He would have been 30. He would have been 15. So he would have helped my grandpa probably with a float. They had floats a lot. So they had Potato Festival. It lasted for 2 days. It was on the 6th and 7th of October. And many people came to town for this. And one of their days, one of their days' income on that day was $268. That's one of the highest ones so far.
We're going to stop right here just for a minute because
Yes.
the Potato Festival, when you talk about that, today's generation talks about Tall Timber Days because it's been going on for almost 30 years or even over 30 years. So when you mention Potato Festival, they all go, what are you talking about? And for me, I thought it was in the middle of the summer, but it wasn't. It was in October, wasn't it?
Fall after harvest.
Wow. I just remember my mother saying, they had these potatoes, and they took a drill and they drilled down the center of the potatoes and they put a hot dog in there.
Really?
Yeah, and they cooked them right out in the middle of the street. That's the only
And
thing
that-
my mom remembers is that they all got to eat that hot dog.
There was
and
your
that
snack.
potato. Yeah, it was so cool. But what we're going to do then is now we've started, and we'll get back to that just for a
All right.
minute. We're going to go through, and so we're going to put up some pictures for you. We're going to talk about them a little bit. And the first picture coming up is one of the first pictures taken of the outside of the store. Now, and it looks just like the same building. Honest to goodness, when you go by there today, you're going to go, oh, it's the same, you know, it's long and tall. But when I looked at the picture, and you look at that picture very closely on to the right, it's a grocery store. And to my generation, Stokes has been there forever. Honest to goodness, it's always been Stokes. But we did some research, and this was a grocery store. that
Actually,
was
where
right
Reed
there.
Drug was.
Yeah.
This is where Reed Drug was. Used to be the old National.
Oh, yeah.
grocery
Oh, that's
store.
right. It's Stokes is next door to that. So
They're,
this is where.
they're actually, yeah, they're actually
Yeah.
next to that.
But it's really cool because you get a little bit of that store right there in the picture. Isn't that cool?
Yep.
So when I saw this, this is so cool. And then I went, oh, the grocery store. We do not have a full picture of that grocery store. This will be the first one in the collection.
Oh my gosh.
We know of it. And I had to do research for Bender Shoes because they went and they were doing some remodeling and the city wanted to know what was going on. So we researched your street like you would not believe.
Oh, I
And
suppose.
that's the one that we didn't have. Oh, now I
Oh
can
my
say we have a
gosh.
picture. It's so cool.
How about that?
So we're just going to continue on. The next picture is the inside of the store in 1937.
Now, should I interrupt you?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so this store right here was built in 1946. This is the original store in the old Indian Joe's building.
Is that why it looks skinny
That's
to
why
me?
it looks skinny and it looks way old-fashioned.
Yeah.
So this was 1937. This was 1946.
Okay. So, wow, we learn something new every day, don't we?
This is an interesting picture because you can see all the shirting goods on the table. You can see shirting goods in the glass case. But when you look up on top, they have all these boxes lined up above the shelving. All of those boxes were to depict extra merchandise, when in reality, all those boxes were empty. They wanted to look profitable. They wanted to look like
okay.
they were starting a business in the poorest of times, right after the
Yes.
Depression. It
Yeah,
hadn't been 10
yeah.
years since Depression time, and they needed to look like they had inventory to sell. And this old chair, we still use those in our store today. They transferred from this store to our store. Those are the those are the chairs in our shoe section.
From 1937.
Yep.
There was. That's what I like about your store.
Yeah.
Is man, you use it until it's dead.
It does.
And if it
In
doesn't
reality,
die,
it doesn't
it's still,
die.
It's still there. That is so cool. Well, in that mode, then I'm going to change my pictures around, and I'll let everybody know that we changed it just a little bit.
Sure.
Because then this here
Is actually this store. Yes.
is the store. So this picture coming up is awesome. And for me, what's so cool is that this existed. And do you know what happened to it? The sign.
I don't know what happened to the sign. I absolutely have a full-sized, all crinkly, looks like it got wet and dry and wet and dry. I don't know how that would happen in the office. We've never had water in there. But anyway, I have the existing small version of it, like a copy of it.
Oh, okay. Well, for you that are looking and you see this picture, her grandpa,
Herb Brier.
Herb Brier, and who made the sign? Who put all the names and stuff? Do you know?
I think Herb did.
He did the
I think
whole thing.
absolutely.
So when I saw this picture the first time, first of all, it's fascinating that anybody that could drive by, walk by, could read everybody's name that served in all the different militaries. And this is what solves that mystery, because I saw the sign on the right. You'll see the
Herb Brier and
her
Son.
sign. It's right there on the right. But a lot of people don't know that we had a granary in town.
Well, and at this time, there was no existing alley between here.
Oh, there isn't, is there?
No, and there used to be. I mean, there was in my
Wow.
day and age. There was an alley
an
here,
alley.
but back then there was absolutely no alley.
Well, and if you're looking at this picture right now, and we're going to put you where it would be, Lakes Area Credit Union is right there on that corner. It used to be, well, you were there first, the Brier, and then Indian Joe's, and Norby Drug, and insurance
Norby Drug was on the,
company.
yep, there was an insurance
corner.
company in the middle, and Norby's was on the corner. And
So then where this feed is where the parking lot is, because then
Absolutely.
it's the train
train
track
tracks.
and then the depot.
Yep.
So this picture to me like talks 1,000 words. It's so cool. So the next picture up is him right in front of the sign. It's your that's so
So these were
cool.
people, all the people's names on these signs were people that were in all forms of service, all on the Iron Range, anywhere, I believe from Deer River, Cohasset, Grand Rapids, Coleraine, Beauvais, Taconite. It was all right in our area, and all people had to do was come and tell. He knew lots of them, but people came and told, and he would put their name on there. He would put when they were missing in action. He would put when they had died, when they were killed in service.
Wow, right on the sign.
Yep.
So
there's
that's what
little
this
icons
symbols.
behind
Okay.
it after.
Wow.
Very readable. Many names on there that I
That
recognize.
is awesome. So then you moved back to that first sign in 1946. You said that was built?
The second store was built in 1946. This Indian Joe's store, or the space where Indian Joe's was, they rented that for 9 years.
9 years.
Yep.
Okay, well, the first picture in the Herald Review is the grand opening of your store in 1947. Now, when this picture comes up, you look at this, it is really crinkly. And the reason for that is this negative is so old in our collection, normally we don't even keep them because it costs so much money to redo. But this is the only one that we have. So this is going to be an experiment for us to redo this picture and try to get, it's an emulsion, it's a layered picture, black and white, but this is the first picture we know of in 1947 of your grand opening in that building.
My gosh. So I have never seen this picture. I actually have never seen this picture. The store does not look a lot different. The lights obviously are different, but the place where they hang the coats is the same. The place where they hang the suits is the same. We don't change much. At Brier Clothing, we don't change much. We just leave things alone.
Yes, isn't that
I would love to have a
just
copy
neat?
of that when you do that.
Well, and we're going to experiment and see if we can save this
Oh
picture
my.
so we can restore it. I mean, you could just go in and have somebody spend hours and hours just take out all the wrinkles and stuff. But we want to save the negative because that's what it was made from. And it's 4x5, black and white. So we will try to do that.
My.
Yeah, isn't that cool? I'm just so excited because that's the way that it goes.
So absolutely thrilling.
Okay, now looking at this because you've not seen it before and examine it very closely, what did you notice?
One of the things that we never really knew for sure was if the till that we have in our store was the only till that they'd ever used in this location, and it is, because there's a picture of it, and that's a till we use today.
It's
So-
still working.
Question answered.
Question answered, isn't that cool?
Since
we'll make up,
1937.
when we get
Wow.
this all fixed, we'll make up a big one. You can put it in your store.
That'd
That'd
be
be
so
so neat. And then we could put it even on that picture show that you have so people can,
Oh, yeah.
as it comes through, that'll be so cool. Okay, just a couple of personal things now because he was so involved with the community.
He was.
I know. And this here is 1948. And this picture shows he gave flags to them.
He donated to the
drum majorettes.
drum majorettes. Yeah.
And the names that we have is Ruth Ann Buckley, Mary.
Macedonsky.
Now, did you know them?
Nope, but I know the
do?
Macedonsky name.
The name, okay. And Alice Mitchell. Isn't that neat? I really would love to get one of those cheerleading or the
Oh my
majorette.
gosh.
Wouldn't that be so cool?
Probably some of the first.
Yeah.
Some of the first.
And beautiful. Look at those
With
headdresses.
full headdresses.
And
oh
see,
my gosh.
we started the Grand Rapids Indians started our documentation in 1948.
So those are
Isn't that
pretty
cool?
new.
Yes,
Yep.
those will be very new. The next picture shows a group of men, and you're saying a group of men, but he was really involved with Rotary.
Grandpa Brier was very involved in Rotary, and then even after he passed away, my dad applied for his position in Rotary, which was builder, or they had different people that were good at different things in Rotary. Obviously, he was the men's clothier, but my dad was a pretty good builder, and so he got my grandpa's job in Rotary.
So did he ever talk to about, did they build out at Camp Blue Water? And
Oh,
stuff like
yes.
that? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Because that's been kind of like their little thing that they work on every summer. They go out there and they put the dock out and do all this work. The Rotarians just love to do that. I was a Rotarian for 10 years and got to go out every year. I'm just not an outdoor person though. Oh my goodness. So I stayed I fixed the food for them.
There you go.
So whoever's catering, I was in the kitchen helping, let me tell you. But they always did, they'd wade out in that water, put the dock out, and it was like every Rotarian showed up for that. It was our big event, was to go to Camp Blue Water.
Wow.
So in this picture, the next picture coming up, kind of goes back to, and I put the two pictures together, but now I don't have to, because this is in their new building, and it's in 1951. And what I thought was so cool was that Fish for Vets still exists. They still go out and catch them. But he put it on top of your store.
They have Fish for Vets, they fought for you. We call it Pike for Vets.
Yeah, today.
So
Pike for
today we
Vets.
call it Pike for Vets, and they flew 2 flags. He was very community oriented.
Oh, I just think that is so cool though. You can read those letters.
I've never seen
everything.
this picture either.
You haven't?
Never.
Okay, well,
Nope.
this is 1951, and it's in the, and some of these have never been published either.
Okay.
What we have found out with Grand Rapids Herald Review was they would send their news people out and they would go take pictures and do an article, and then the editor would say, well, we don't want to do that story, and they would just file. So we have so many pictures that have been
oh my gosh.
not been published. So to us, it's like Christmas every single day.
Oh yeah.
It's so much fun. So let's get back to a little bit on the diary again.
Okay,
Let's read a couple
so
more.
we talked about the potato festival. Then she has a note here in December of 1939, and all of a sudden, down here on the 27th, it says Henry Kiefer disappears. Now, I don't know that Kiefer name. She doesn't say what happened to him. No place in the book does it say he was ever found, but he was there one day and gone the next. So
Oh my
different
goodness.
things happened even back in those
Back in those days.
and she wrote just different things about weather. In June of, where were we at? Right here. Did I have it right up there? June 1st of 1940, it was 90 degrees. 90 degrees in June 40.
June 1st.
And
Wow,
then-
it's coming up soon, and we're not even hitting 50 yet.
And then in the middle of July of 1940, they had a cyclone. She wrote that there was a cyclone that hit. Now, a cyclone has to do with water, so it had to have been, unless she's calling a tornado a cyclone.
They could have. Yes, they could have. Yeah.
And then all of this time they were renting a place to live. They were still in the old store as of this date, and they were renting a store space, renting a house. And then in 1940 they started their house, which was directly across the street on River Road from the old hospital.
Okay, so next picture up.
There's the
Ah,
house.
there's the house. And what's so cool is that they won Christmas
Many
decorations. Okay, well,
It
this
was-
one I have is 1950.
I had a lady in the store, and I can't recall her name, but it wasn't very long ago, like maybe a couple of months ago, and she was telling me that it was her parents and my parents who every other year, that's who would win. My dad would spend all fall building stuff to put up on the roof. We'd have a whole sleigh with Santa Claus and the reindeer and the North Star and the whole shebang, and they'd have stuff out in the yard. It was like whoever could light it up more, that's who was going to win.
And the thing is, they didn't take colored pictures.
No.
So I only have black and white, and Merry Christmas across the garage kind of thing, and it looks beautiful, but it's black and white. So
If you
looking
saw
at
it lit
that
up
picture,
yeah.
I'd
Oh, that'd be
love
cool.
to see a colored picture. That would be just the ultimate. But this particular year, you were the winner.
And that was in 1950.
1950, the winners. It's so cool.
That was actually the year my older sister was born.
okay.
So they had a brand new 3-month-old baby.
Baby.
Yep.
Okay, so let's continue on.
So she also wasn't much of a sports fan that I knew of, Grandma Brier. Maybe Grandpa Brier was, but it said Cincinnati were the baseball champs in October 8th of 1940, she had that written down in there. She also has the Armistice Day storm written down here.
Ooh.
She has the Armistice Day storm and how the roads were blocked and that there was heavy snow and the roads were all closed and you couldn't go anyplace. But then down the road here, she also writes that there was a terrible, terrible storm in March, and of course Armistice Day was in November. This is in March of 1941 on the 17th, and she wrote that there was a huge storm and that there was 58 people killed in this storm. So I'm a little unsure about that. You and I have talked about
yeah, because Armistice, 70-some people died.
So
And the
here,
Armistice storm was 70-some. Only reason why we investigated here, my mom has dementia.
Okay.
And so her memory, and probably 8 years ago, I called her on the phone and I said, can you tell me about the Great Storm? And oh my goodness, just like that. She could tell me everything. She was on the school bus. Her family was the last stop out in Split Hand, and the bus had gotten to Split Hand and couldn't go any further. She had to walk all the way across this big field because the bus was stuck. The snow was so heavy. And she wore a dress that day, and she remembers that her legs, it was just like ice hitting the back of her legs as she went across that field. The wind was so bad. The bus driver came with them because he couldn't stay with the bus. So the family of 11 children were in this little tiny house with the bus driver, and their dad was stuck out doing logging in the woods. And she said they took turns with this rope from their house to the barn, so they kept the animals stirring all night long. So all of her brothers took a 2-hour turn out in the barn to make sure the animals never laid down to sleep. They just kept going. She goes, and I remember snow coming in the cracks of our house.
wow,
How scary is that? But 70-some people died
terrible.
from just that storm. Now to have another documentation, though, all
Of a
in the
different
same
storm.
winter season.
yeah, 4 months apart.
Wow.
November
Isn't that
was
just
terrible
like-
for a storm like that anyway.
Oh, yeah, but that storm she remembers over any other storm.
Oh,
Probably
my.
because it was so dramatic, and she physically felt it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Physically, you don't lose that. So, okay.
So Grandma also has, in 1941 in October, there must have been duck hunters that were hunting on Little Pekagama, and 2 of them drowned. She doesn't have any names, but that's how different her documentation is. It's not just about any one thing. It's about
Everything.
everything that went on. And then she has Pearl Harbor Day on the 7th and on the 8th of December when the U.S. Declares war on Japan. That's in big letters because now we're at wartime. And of course, their son at this time, my dad, he was born in 24 and this is 41. So he is 17? No, 24, 34, 41, 17.
17 years old.
Yep. So it's pushing towards wartime. And they have 1 son. And she talks about sugar rationing, how sugar rationing started. And then she talks about Mr. Kramer. So this would be Elder Mr. Kramer.
Okay, yep.
Elder Mr. Kramer died. And the next month, Elder Mrs. Kramer died.
Oh, my.
They died very, very close together. And I'm sure Grandma, at this time, she was fairly young, so these people were elderly to her. So this is like a great from the people that we would know.
From the Kramer family.
I would guess.
Yep.
And then a fellow by the name of Don Myers went missing in 1942. This was, and I think that was probably service related. I'm almost
okay.
positive that's service related because right up the road here comes a note that says, Bill leaves for the Army. So that's my dad. My dad, he's going into the service.
Okay, so now the story on your dad.
So my dad, he was an only child, and he went into service. He got as far, I think he went in down in someplace, down in Fort, what's right down here, Fort...
Fridley?
yeah.
Ripley?
Fort Ripley.